to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. And today I am chatting with two of the fine folks from the C&I, that is the Center for Neighborhood Innovation. Please welcome Katherine Phillips and Will Christian. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rob. Happy to be here.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for inviting us.
Totally. So I want to start off with, as I do with all of the guests I bring on, vital stats. So what's the C&I, for those who are undipped and don't know, and what are your roles within the C&I? And I'll just stop right there, and I have another question, but I'll just stop right there. So what's the C&I, and what are your roles there respectively?
Cool. So the Center for Neighborhood Innovation, or the C&I for short, is the shared work and community space operated out of the Hohen & Co. Lithograph building in East Baltimore at 2101 East Biddle Street. It was a shared idea concept that came out of the development process and community engagement process of the Hohen building back starting in 2015. And it's a collaboration of tenants, Cross Street Partners being one of them. It's the company we work for. Morgan State University and Outlook Animation Studios. And it's intended to be a space a little different than a regular co-working space. We have major tenants, large nonprofits in the city, university partners like Morgan, and then space for small companies that are kind of trying to get off their feet, small companies, small nonprofits, and shared resources in a community where we have networking events and ways to learn and collaborate. And it's also got space available for the community to come use when they are interested or want to have a community meeting or something. And I am the community manager, so I help facilitate a lot of those community partnerships between either our tenants in the C&I and community members directly, or partnerships and opportunities between our tenants. We found a lot of cool opportunities for collaboration between them. And a big part of my job is watching that grow, as well as making sure the lights stay on and all that fun stuff. But Will can talk a little bit more about his role too.
And I'm the community associate for the CNI. So I largely help with the kind of community events or community engagement that we do, both amongst our tenants, but also with the community as well.
It's great. And again, I want to thank you too. I said it off mic, but I must say it on mic so it's captured. I want to thank you too for giving me that great tour earlier. It's a beautiful building and a lot of interesting things going on inside. A lot of great stuff. I was really impressed. So yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. So I think whenever there's something new, right? Something new in the city, new things are going on, there's that chatter around gentrification, people are coming in and just taking our stuff. What are your thoughts on that with respect to your work with the Hohen building, C&I, that whole situation? Speak on that a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult question. When I saw that you put us in here, Rob, I was like, oh, great. Developers love talking about gentrification, but no, it's important and it's a valid concern. I think something we think about at Cross Street Partners, our projects are exclusively in what we call our secondary or non-traditional markets. We're not in Harbor East, stuff like that. And we work in adaptive reuse solely. So I think a lot of what we think about, the first part of it is gentrification is a real concern. And I think it's naturally scary or upsetting when new things come up. I get that being a fear, but I think we often look also at the other side of if these buildings don't get developed, and that's something that we see across Baltimore all the time too. If these buildings, beautiful historic buildings that we have left all over the city, just remain vacant and they continue to degrade, and the communities around them degrade too, without the resources that they could hold. So a large part of that for us has been working with community directly, and a long and very detailed process of before setting up these buildings. And a huge part of that at Hohen has been selecting the tenancy and the kind of people that are in here, the kind of organizations that we have here. We had a really extensive community engagement process that I was not around for, but I've heard a lot about and talked to a lot of the members that were a part of it prior to the building being developed. And the number one thing that everybody requested and said that they would really like to see in this development was opportunities for jobs and growth and education, something that this building used to offer to the community when it was a factory and a lithograph factory. So that was a big part of us selecting our tenants. Strong City's Adult Learning Center, ABC's Construction Training Academy, Morgan Care's Community Health Center. The majority of our tenants are nonprofits, and the vast majority of our tenants pay below market rent. And I think a big goal of everybody here is to be an asset and a resource to this community. And I mean, that's kind of how I view it. But again, I'm from the larger Baltimore community, but not from this community directly. So I'll definitely let Will grew up in East Baltimore, so I'll let him.
Are you from the East Side too? Then yeah, bro, what it is?
Yeah, say no. But I agree with Katherine, and it also being from the community. Specifically, I have family members in this area, so I've seen this building, this community go from like vacant and vacant lots to what it is now with the CNI, and just seeing the transition. I feel like when people see stuff that are new, they instantly think that it's taken away from the community rather than giving back. And that's one of the good things about the CNI is that we look for different opportunities to kind of engage the community involved with our building, rather than just being its own beast or its own entity, but being able to like find those collaborations to bring them all together.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got there was just in saying it's not because I'm gassing, because why would I do that? But it definitely felt like it was a resource for various parts of the community, various people within the community. And I didn't see any of that great gentrification gray that I love so much. These buildings that just have this slate mid gray that's just meaningless to me. I hate it. And we'll talk about color later, Katherine. But I think it's a lot of different things in there, and I think the Hohen building being there and it kind of being where it's at now and kind of like, for the most part, like kind of finished as far as not under construction in that way, that it's a sign of a healthy community, not a blighted community. And I'm saying that as a resident of the neighborhood that's been here from when it was still like, being worked on to where it's at now, and being able to see kind of that finished product, and it looks great inside. And like I said earlier, like I didn't think it was going to look like that. I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And so speak on like social listening as a organization, as a part of the community. How important has like social listening been, being involved in that community? Because there, are a few different places that have come here, maybe arts oriented, maybe not, that are about the community, say that they're listening, but then they kind of do something different. And you guys aren't doing that. That's from what I can see. So how important has it been to have that kind of social listening and having the community really involved? And like, how was it kind of getting to that point where you can have these conversations with folks in the community to really serve the community?
I think it's interesting you use the term. I've never heard the term social listening before.
Oh, I made that up.
Oh, okay, cool. I like it.
Feel free to steal it.
I plan to. So great. It's interesting because I joined Cross Street March 24th, 23rd of 2020. Mm-hmm. So the week I went into quarantine, this building, we had finished the first floor, Strong City, but the rest of the building was under construction. And so I missed a lot of the early community engagement process, which looked, I think, more traditional community engagement process. And whatever anybody sitting at home was picturing, I picture like a lot of metal, like a community hall, like where you're just metal chairs spread around and everybody's just talking about what they want. I think it looked a lot more like that. community gatherings looked a lot different before the pandemic. And it's something we're dying to get back to, but we still haven't had. So it's been interesting for me being in a community engagement role entirely during a pandemic. So we've had to get a little creative with that. We were lucky at Hohen that we had a huge backlog of all this community engagement stuff, but we've been adjusting. Working, I think the connections that we have are really important. We have internal connections through Strong City to the club at Collington Square, and we've had great connections with the Collington Square Neighborhood Association. Hohen bridges, East Biddle Street bridges, Collington Square, and then Broadway East. So we also have a good relationship with the Broadway East community, and I mean, broader East Baltimore community. There's so many different pockets here, and that's something that we've been really trying to piece together now that the building is open. How is the best way in a pandemic to offer that same kind of community gathering space, a good space for social listening? And we've, I think, been trying and failing with some things. We had a big community day in October. It was outside. I loved when we had warm weather and we could actually gather together. And I think that was a growing success. We had right before Omicron or Omarion, reared its ugly head. Antonio Glover had his Christmas party here, and we saw a lot of different members of the community that had never been here before, had heard about it, and that was cool. So finding those connections, but we're trying to find a way to do it remotely while we have this and build for things in the spring. I think that could be more open. One way we'd like to do that is offering the spaces we have. Like we have 12 meeting spaces and a few larger kind of open spaces other than that, for members of the community, if they'd be interested in hosting their own meetings here, or hosting different conversations. I don't know, Will, do you have anything you'd like to add to that? That was probably a roundabout answer, but yeah.
No.
I think you hit it.
No, I think I agree with Will. I think you hit it. But then also I think it's building. Like, look, we're a resource. We're extending ourselves as a resource, and in a transparent way. Like, look, we're here. Pull up, and that's literally the vibe I got. Once I got to U2, I was like, oh yeah, I can just come over there now. I'm just gonna walk over there. I walked over there like I owned the place, and it was ridiculous. So that's great. It's great to hear that. And I can't wait for the weather to improve, because I just look at that whole area as opportunity. That's the thing that sticks out for me. It's just opportunity.
Yeah.
So the Hohen building has a rich history. One of the most prolific lithograph printing companies in the world, occupying the building for over 80 years. What's another exciting fact that relates to the building, and what were some of the challenges getting to where we're at now? Because I think that's lost. I think that gets lost in the conversation.
So the challenges of redevelopment or rehabbing an old building?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Rob gave a little intro. The building that we're in now, the CNI, is in the Hohen Lithograph building, which was built in 1889 and served as the Hohen Lithograph factory from 1902 till, I told you 1983 this morning, but just fact checked myself, and it's 1981. My date. But the building's sat vacant since then, and everybody jokes that it had more rain on the inside than outside. And while it is amazing how much of the structure is still intact, and Rob got to see a little bit of that this morning, that we really don't build buildings like we used to.
Right.
There was a lot of work to be done, and it required a lot of public subsidy to make a project like this work. The financials behind Hohen have a mix of historic tax credits, environmental tax credits. It's a LEED Gold certified building, as well as historic and new markets tax credits. And those put together with that investment are how this building came to be. And that and a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears. I'm trying to think of a good example. Will, do you know of any? You weren't here for construction.
Nope, I started this past summer.
I was like, I don't get my hands dirty with construction. Let's be real, guys.
What predates me is like fun things with brick. We had a wall in ABC just come down. And that had to go back up with the historic brick. And so you have to find all historic bricks to do it again. There was a really significant environmental remediation process that took a long time. And we are still kind of dealing with the end of the building is fine. There's no environmental issues. We are just still filing all the paperwork. And it's things like that.
I thought maybe it was a quiz or something for the ABC when that wall went down, right? It's like, hey, here's your quiz, guys. And this evening, we need you to find these historic bricks and they need to go back up the way that they were. Make it happen.
Working with I love working with historic consultants and historic agencies, but it is sometimes a little bit like that. If you don't have marble steps, find them. But it's great, and it creates buildings with, I think, really cool character, and that is something that stands out to me about Hohen. Yeah.
So, what's an interesting fact that sticks out there for the fine folks is I recall you remarking upon some of the original floors that were there and original mezzanine, I believe, and other areas. It was like a safe that you tried to lock me in at one point. I was really tricky. I was like, what's happening here? I didn't think I was coming here for this. Am I podcasting from here now? So speak on some of those interesting quirks that are there on the premises.
You want to go? Well, you can talk about the safes. Go for it.
Well, we have a couple like safes that were historic to the building, but they are deactivated. They do not lock. Rob was not locked in the safe.
I don't recall. No, I'm kidding.
And it was fireproof, but there's a lot of like original flooring from the historic building, and also the mezzanine that Rob talks about. They used to where the bosses used to work to oversee the workers when they work. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. A cool thing we've had the opportunity to do is work with some people that we've met that used to work in this factory. I mean, when the Hohen lithograph factory was open, it employed hundreds of people that lived in this neighborhood, walking distance to their jobs. We learned recently they had horses here. So a lot of it has been word of mouth, like we've had 2 factory workers who used to work in the factory come back and give us some stories. And we've connected a few members of the Hohen family. Some of them live locally to Baltimore, and the rest of the family is scattered around Richmond, Virginia. And last spring, we had the opportunity to have them all here, and it was really cute. I believe it's Tom Hohen. His dad was the last director of the factory, and he came up to that mezzanine, the level with the safe, where everybody would stare down at everybody ominously on payday. And he walked in and he was like, "Oh, this was my dad's office." And it is now a conference room, but it is cool. It has a lot of that original character intact, so much that he could just recognize it. And he was like, "My dad sat here." And he was like 8 years old or something when the company closed. So all he remembers is getting Major League Baseball cards and National Geographic magazine ads that were printed here. But it is cool to see that legacy still living on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, for nerds such as myself, I was like, this is great. Everything in here is great. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Everybody stopped by for no other reason than to get locked in the safe. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
But so now I want to ask, I got 2 more questions, and one is about company culture, and the other one is about work-life balance. We all love that, right? So from both of you, what is your what is your tip or best way to maintain like a good work-life balance? And I think this is just more so apt in a very general perspective. Like, me, I have this idea of stealing time, stacking things, batching things together to get more time, batching similar tasks, things of that nature to kind of give myself more hours. But how do you like maintain work-life balance? Is it something you struggle with? And what do you do when you know you're lacking that balance?
I think for me, I'm still trying to get the hang of work-life balance. Just from working in retail is like a very different pace, but like very different. For me, I try to use my hobbies as ways to like kind of center myself. So I both write and draw. So I use that on times where I feel like I'm kind of lacking as far as not getting enough sleep or feeling overwhelmed. I just draw or write out anything that I could be feeling at the moment. And then I use that to kind of like center myself and regather myself and being able to refocus on the task at hand. So I would say for the people out there, if you have like a hobby that you love or some type of passion that you love, use that as your way to like recenter yourself, to kind of like balance the two, if that makes sense.
Because you've published like 3, 4 for works here. A little sneaky research there.
Yeah, I've published three books so far and published a Kindle Vella kind of story. So you kind of say 4, but it's not really a physical paperback. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know you knew that.
Oh, I was stalking in the afternoon. I was just like, let's see what's out there. And
Yeah,
all the bodies are buried and everything.
Yeah, currently working on books 4 and 5 paperbacks. So yeah, that should be coming soon. And I do all my own covers.
So this was a question I omitted, but since we're talking about it, I might as well throw it in there. Or do you? So that's a mechanism. The writing component is a mechanism for the work-life balance that kind of aids in that. Is there maybe a skill or something that you're taking from your day-to-day that you're applying to that, or vice versa? Or do they kind of serve each other in any way? The writing versus the day-to-day work?
I feel like with the writing and the day-to-day work kind of improved the writing a little bit because I learned not only time management, but task management as well.
Sure.
So being able to like prioritize certain things, especially with the writing. But on the backhand, the writing has definitely improved day-to-day like operations, just when it comes to like all the fun stuff that we do at CNI, like the marketing and things like that. So I would say that they kind of like go hand in hand with each other. Not one do good for the other. They kind of attack each other.
Okay. Yeah. Working in unison. I like that. Katherine.
I know. I'm thinking about it a lot. When I took this job, it was kind of a career change for me. And beforehand, I worked in the nonprofit space, doing some kind of accounting for nonprofits. And I remember I wasn't wild about my job when I lived in DC, but I felt like I had a great work-life balance. And I really enjoyed my life. I now feel sometimes like I've shifted it and I still really enjoy my life, but I really enjoy my job and it takes a lot of my time. So I do think there's some kind of, I say this because I do think there's a lot of pressure, particularly in the United States or whatever, capitalism, I don't know what you want to blame for it, but to like really push yourself and always be growing at work. And I think there are a lot of different ways to be happy and to have a work-life balance. Right now, I really love my job and I spend a lot of time on that, but I've been in roles that I wasn't as crazy about my job itself, but I loved my life and my hobbies and things like that. I'm a big fan of long, solitary, pensive walks and hiking. I also paint, but I do not find enough time to do that anymore. And then cooking is a big way that I calm down, and kind of decompress after work. But yeah, I think it's finding what works for you. And I think it's accepting that work-life balance isn't an equation, and it's something that's going to change all the time. Whatever your percentage of what you're doing work versus your hobbies versus spending time with friends, family, that percentages, they're always in flux. There are weeks you're going to give more to your job and weeks you can give less. And I'm a big fan of preaching self-acceptance and accepting change. So I think being comfortable with those fluctuations is probably my number one piece of advice there.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, still time. Stacking, stealing time.
Yeah.
So this is the last real question I have before I get into the ridiculous rapid fire questions. So what are, it was, you touched on it a little bit, I believe. What are some of the creative things that are being done there, CNI, home building, that are used to develop a likable company culture? Because that's the vibe. It's just like, oh, people are nice here. This seems fun. This is a nice, and as you were saying there a moment ago, Katherine, like you like your job. So I think culture is a piece of it, that people like their jobs. Like as I was telling you all earlier about an offer that came my way, and ultimately it's like, I don't care about the money as much. Like it's the language was speaking, but really, do I like this place more than where I'm at currently? And the answer was no. So I think culture is a big piece of that decision, and just any decision related to work and what you're going to do. So how is it? What does the culture look like in creating a likable culture that you're in, and what's that culture look like there?
Yeah, well, I think that's a big goal of the CNI and for all the tenants that are here is a lot of us are here and have been here throughout the pandemic. Many because we have to, the nature of our work. But it's also a fun place. We have happy hours. Some of the more kind of, I guess, tangible and flashy things. We have kombucha on tap and a cool coffee machine. But other than that, like we have an animation studio in-house. They are very creative and very fun, and they make everybody else look cooler by just being around. They have Nerf guns and Nerf gun battles and Dungeons and Dragons meetings every week and take tequila shots on Fridays. So that helps. They are really cool and everyone should check them out. Outlook Animation makes kids pop culture content. They have a show on Netflix currently called Kalapari, Army of Frogs, about frogs and scorpions. Is there?
Scorpions.
Yeah, scorpions waged in an eternal battle for water. And they're also working on a few other projects for groups like Hulu and Nickelodeon. So they're pretty cool and fun to be around. I think that we at CSP are also cool, but in a different way. We like to nerd out about historic buildings and things like that. Yeah. I don't know, Will, are there any other aspects you think are kind of fun about being here? Other than also creative Will's work. Will writing his books here is also.
Yeah, I can agree that Outlook definitely makes the culture very fun, because it's not like you have everyone's different. So it's not like your typical corporate co-working space where everyone's to the desk and not talking to anyone and everyone stays in their cubicles. It's like everyone, they come out, they mingle in the common areas, they would have a discussion or talk about things that they like, whether it be writing or drawing, movies or Dungeons and Dragons or historic buildings. Everyone's very open and friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I got there. Yeah. Yeah. It's like 3 people there outside of you guys, but that was the vibe I got there.
It was early
what time
morning.
did you get here?
It was 9.
So Outlook wasn't in yet.
Yeah.
They start rolling in around 10:30. Yeah, they're the late crowd.
That's when the party began to get.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all of the real questions that I have. So let's get into some rapid fire questions. And with the exception of one of these, exception of one of these, I have a group of questions, and you can answer them as briefly or as with much context as you want. So I'm going to start off with this one. This is for both of you.
Okay.
What is your most unusual talent?
That's hard. Like, it's rapid fire. You know what? On the list of things that are not my talent is answering questions quickly and under pressure. I am deeply into astrology, and that is a side hobby of mine. You probably didn't find that in your background check on me.
I did not.
Yeah. I can pull your natal chart and tell you things about your life. I also pull tarot cards, so I guess that would be something people wouldn't guess about me. So
see, you just pulled. See, wasn't that much. It's right there.
I don't know. You know what it is that's not weird to me because it's very much a part of my life. So I don't know if that's my weirdest talent. I wish I had some kind of like disjointed elbow or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
I feel like Will can juggle. I feel like you can juggle, Will.
Oh, I'm terrible at juggling. I'm trying to think of some weird ones. I really don't have any.
Okay.
That I can think of.
Okay.
So I can get home and I do
What is
something
your
weird.
weirdest, strangest talent?
I'm a podcaster. No.
Doesn't count. I'm a real estate developer.
I don't know if that counts. I don't think that's real. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, that first one was a misfire. All right, fair. Let's see. What is and I think you touched on this earlier, Katherine. What is a popular piece of professional advice that you just disagree with? That you just find this is to be untrue? We're indoctrinated with this notion of hustle, 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 especially now. And it's like, no, you need to have a little bit more balance or whatever that might be. What is that piece of like professional advice that you feel like you've heard a lot, but you find it not to be true?
Oh, so many things.
See, that's a lot easier, right? Isn't it?
If I could just burn it all down and start over. I think
Getting Aries vibes right there.
What?
Getting Aries vibes right there.
Sagittarius with a Leo moon, big fire sign energy, but
I'm the Aries.
Aquarius cusp, ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens.
I know you're a Capricorn. I already thought that to myself earlier today. You're a Capricorn on the Aquarius cusp, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I already did the math today. But I also think one that I am still navigating the right balance to, but I think is important, is that emotions don't have any place in the workplace. It's something that I feel particularly strongly about. I think being a woman in the workplace, particularly now working in a field that is traditionally and primarily still male dominated. Coming from the nonprofit space, I had some really great female bosses, a couple of whom taught me a lot about kind of when they first stepped into their role, into kind of a more executive level role, feeling like they had to do things a certain way and to fit a less emotional way of operating, or a less kind of. My last boss in the nonprofit space was a Cancer, and she was a Cancer in every sense of the word. She had big mommy energy and like was really sentimental. And she said that what felt really unnatural to her is when she tried to be an executive in an unemotional way, because it's not who she is. I think the way I feel my emotions in the workplace is a little different than that. It's more fiery than water. But there is a place for even that, for like feeling passionately in the workplace. And I think showing emotion, showing that you care in a balanced way. I think my recommendation is that there is a way to be you in any job and in every workplace, and that you don't have to like mask levels of that.
That's legit.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Thanks. Will, you have any? I don't know if that's just for me, but
I don't know. I really don't.
yeah.
I'm just going to go with Katherine said.
The question could have been rougher, because I've been shadier and say, describe your career as a rap song. It's like, no, let's not do that.
Oh,
That's not a question, but I've done it in the past.
Pick a rap song, or people are intended to rap on the spot?
To pick a rap song, not to rap on the spot. That's just way too.
Oh Lord.
Okay.
Not all of us can do that. I mean, I can, but not all of us. All right. This is me trolling. Favorite movie?
Scream.
Are you going to see the new one?
Oh, tonight at 7.
Nice.
Mine changes all the time. Silence of the Lambs is up there. We talked Thursday, probably for a few reasons, but I love Hannibal Lecter, and that I also love Clarice, and she went to my alma mater. I went to UVA, Doctor. It's not a charm school. That I also have a deep love for Gone with the Wind, because I think it's a really complicated movie that anybody who lives in the United States should see.
Last two, and then the one for Katherine will be coming up. Which historical figure do you most identify with? I know it's a rough one. It's not an easy one, because everyone's a little problematic. Everyone's a little crappy.
I know.
Especially the further you go back, it's like, I really like, no, he sucks. He's
Do I even know? Like, I'm gonna be like, oh, they were definitely canceled.
What cancelable historical figure?
Oh wow!
Wait,
I'm like, am I old enough
who I relate to the most? Was that the question?
Yeah, sure. Who do you identify with?
Identify with.
It could be their work, and everyone's a full-rounded individual, so people have their things. But in terms of how you maybe approach work, approach life, approach creativity, who's someone that comes to mind that you're like, you know what, I like the way they did things.
Oh, Shakespeare. Well, no, he's not. Is he historic?
Shakespeare?
Is he?
I was gonna say Shakespeare because of my writing.
Spin it, yeah, absolutely.
It's historic.
Yeah.
And the fact that we both said the same thing, so I just like, that's my guy.
You have it like inverted commas in the middle. Will Shakespeare, the third.
Right.
Well,
it's crazy because I am a third.
I love it. I don't know. My Instagram heading used to be that my soul is the love child of Grace Kelly and Lil Wayne. That was a few years ago, and so that's definitely not it. I don't know. I would probably go with something basic like Gloria Steinem. She's not basic. I love her, but there we go. I don't know. Love to be her. She's not a historical figure.
That's great.
Yeah, just I can't believe this. Okay.
I'm stuck on the Lil Wayne.
Would you like
Charles
to know
Mingus for
all
me?
of my embarrassing Instagram bios? I don't know why.
Please.
Oh my goodness.
Mine's is Charles Mingus. For you, because clearly both of you are younger than me, and I'm feeling like an old person. Definitely look him up. You'll get the reference. It's great. So this is the penultimate one. Most commonly used emoji.
The upside down face.
Okay.
The laughing emoji.
All right. Fair.
I'm always laughing.
See, that's how I aged out everything, because it was like, that was a quick response, was not much thing. He's like, oh yeah, definitely the upside down emoji. Yeah, laughing face, done.
I'm honestly not a big emoji user, but I don't know what historical figure I identify with the most, but I definitely identify with the upside down face the most.
Mine's is that red hairy devil ogre thing. It's like, yeah. I just send it over regularly. Okay, this is the last one. This is the one for you, Katherine. So I learned that you're not a fan of blue, the many shades of blue. What 3 colors are your colored palette if you had to replace said blue?
I need to amend my previous statements. Is this blue is my color?
No, the shades that we were looking at earlier.
Correct, but that whatever shades of blue they found are not my favorite color. And like every other person in this world, blue is my favorite color. And in fact, it's one of my more boring characteristics. But what would be my 3 colors of choice anywhere, or in that space in particular?
Anywhere.
See, I could have an entire podcast just talking about my opinions on color.
Wow.
I really love like a 70s acid green, yellowy green. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
It's a very specific green.
it is. Some would call it's like atomic greens. It comes up that color and white, but like a slightly off white, and then like a rich navy blue.
Okay.
There you go.
I respect it. So that's pretty much all the questions. So you both did very well on the hot seat that is these rapid fire questions. You kind of cheated on the first one, but I'll allow it.
I'm going to be regretting the Lil Wayne Grace Kelly thing till the day I die, but
it's great. I mean, I said that I'm a cross between Shinsuke Nakamura and Charles Mingus. Those are two very different individuals.
Oh, I would amend my previous statements to include Divine from John Water. Like, if anybody's ever seen a John Waters film, my current Instagram bio is a quote from Divine in a John Waters film, and I would include her.
Good amendment, good catch. So with that, I want to invite both of you to shamelessly plug whatever, wherever, social media, the place, everything, anything that you want to plug. And again, thank you both for being on this podcast, but feel free to shamelessly plug away. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, so the CNI is available. We are available to lease for small private offices, small nonprofits, or if you're just an individual looking to be a member, we have membership rates and meetings and events rates for any of our conference spaces or larger events. We've thrown weddings here, so if you want to talk about a wedding, we threw a wedding before the building was even finished. But our Instagram is CNI at Hoen. So that's SNIATHOEN. And our Facebook, I believe, is the same thing, CNI at Hoen.
So there you have it, folks. I want to thank Katherine Phillips and Will Christian for coming on to the podcast. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Rob.
So for Katherine Phillips, Will Christian, I'm Rob Lee, saying that there is art, community, buildings, revitalization, the end of blighting in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.